Hello, one and all, and welcome back to our Fellowship of the Ring Ship. I am your host, Captain Foley.
And despite my applause, I feel like for the team I have to apologise. That very bad joke, great joke, bad joke. I'm Commander Cockings.
No need to apologize, Commander. They all come here now.
It's in the script.
They all come here now expecting the dad jokes, so I wouldn't want to disappoint anybody. But today's ship was one of Earth's favorite ships. And do you know how I know that, Samuel?
Oh god, I'm afraid to ask. Okay. How do you know that today's ship was one of Earth's favourite designs?
Well, I knew they really liked this design because, and are you ready for this? They liked it because they put a ring on it. Get it? If you liked it, then you should have put a ring on it.
Again! Ladies and gentlemen, I am so sorry for the amazing yet awful yet amazing things. We try at Trekyards here to maintain amazing quality, high standards for both jokes, it was a good joke, and Trekyards episodes, but I do apologise. Those who are still with us, who haven't dropped or jumped off the ship.
Yeah, we do try to maintain the very best and high standards for this show. So without any further delays or awful dad jokes, we present to you all this XCV-330 USS Enterprise ring ship. Here she is.
Yes, the USS Enterprise XCV-330 was a United Earth starship of a class that was launched in 2127 and decommissioned by the United Earth Museum in 2143. The UESP Enterprise was originally built as a manned interstellar probe by the United Earth Space Probe Agency as one of Earth's earliest attempts at interstellar travel. It was the only one of its class to actually reach its destination of Alpha Centauri. All the rest were eventually overtaken technologically wise by more recently developed fast-and-light starships.
The XCV designation stands for Experimental Coleoptric Vehicles, essentially meaning a warp ring-powered vessel, which is also referred to as an annular warp drive. This design allowed the ship to exceed warp 2, approximately 8 times the speed of light, which makes it very useful for solar exploration and colonization. It would be able to travel to Alpha Centauri in approximately 6 months, a much more attractive prospect than the 4 years that the early warp ships would take. The relatively small size of the ship would tend to suggest it had a crew of about 12 to 15 officers and men.
This new warp ring design was inspired, pretty obviously, by the Vulcan design principles, all those lovely red rings on all of their ships, and in fact proved to be 17% more efficient than many of the Vulcan ships, but had troubles turning at high warp speed, thus making it impractical for exploration where sudden course changes would be required.
Or warfare, or practically anything that needed any kind of course correction.
It's kind of it'd be the worst ship for the Delta Quadrant for the Voyager. You couldn't do much.
Well, not quickly anyway.
So,
I mean, it could turn just not very fast.
Well, that'd be 70 years, would be like 280,000 years. No, I don't know. This eventually resulted in this being a technological dead end in Earth starship design, as the new Archer Warp 5 design soon came to revolutionise Earth-based warp technologies.
In trying to figure out a size for this ship, I approached Doug Drexler, and with his help worked out a rough scale. According to Matt Jeffrey's early design sketches, Doug pointed out that the ring's height was 250 feet, or about 76.2 meters, putting the length roughly at 300 feet, or 91.44 meters. So thank you, Doug, for helping me with that. It was much appreciated.
Thanks, Doug.
Forward cabin dimensions indicated on Jeffrey's original design shows a height of 42 feet and length of 55 feet. That's 12.8 meters by 16.67 meters for anyone that metrics.
It is worth noting that this is one of those great things where concept doesn't necessarily equal the ship we're looking at today, but we're just referencing that original, what it was intended to potentially be in that context. So we'll get into that a little later. Nevertheless, Stuart, the XCV-330 Enterprise was still remembered as an enduring part of mankind's early space voyages. Enough that its image was seen alongside the Phoenix at the 602 Club in 2143 and was displayed in Admiral Maxwell Forrest's office in 2154 in the Kelvin timeline. Famous in all universes. I'm sure in the Mirror universe it was just like the entire ring was covered in phaser emitters. The warship XCV-330, long live the Empire.
This ship was originally designed by Matt Jeffries during the early pre-production stage of Star Trek, the original series, obviously. After the show was canceled, the design was considered to be used in a planned but never produced sci-fi television series by Gene Roddenberry. Andromeda, anyone? Anyway, a portrait of the ship later appeared in Star Trek The Motion Picture, and then again on the conference wall in TNG.
Yeah, and this then makes that was actually making the ship canon, at least that iteration of it.
Yes.
And it kind of stood out a little bit, but it showed how much that movie loved Trek, because they're referencing.
It was a nice addition, and it sparked a lot of people's imaginations early on. So as what the lineage would be, so that was really cool.
And it's amazing how just a set decorator can suddenly add one little piece. It's like, oh, just put in there. Ooh, canon. Ooh, wow, this changes everything. Kind of fun they could do that at the time. A few different sources, as we often get on Trekyards, exist with information for this ship. Those of which being mainly the Star Trek map collection, as well as the spaceflight chronology done by the very one and only amazing Rick Sternbuck. In the spaceflight chronology, it refers to the class as a declaration class.
Yeah, in the spaceflight chronology, it states that these ships were designed to travel the popular space lanes, such as Earth to Alpha Centauri, and that 957 of these ships were commissioned, with the Enterprise...
Did we miss a decimal point there? Was it 95.7 ships? You mean 900?
I had to reread that a few times to make sure, yes. So 957 were commissioned, with Enterprise being one of the first. So that's important. It also listed the length of the ship at 300 meters, 210 meters wide, with the living section width at about 28.7 meters.
I love how you say about when you give exact measurements. I've always loved that. It goes on to say that the ship's complement is 100 crew with a passenger capacity of 850 people, making the total ship's complement of 950, which seems a bit much when compared to the much smaller ship we've been discussing with a crew of 12. However, in researching this episode, Stuart couldn't find an official source for this smaller version.
But that's where Doug came in, and I just messaged Doug, and we kind of chatted for a minute and figured it out. So,
and we will talk about the size discrepancy at the end, because that's a pretty hefty discrepancy. It's pretty much a whole different ball game, really. Lastly, in my paragraph anyway, also stated is that the ship could reach the speed of warp 3.2, so quite a bit heftier there, and a standard voyage duration of 3 months, and up to a maximum of 2.5 years. And that would actually make it past several of the Warp Delta program ships, which means it's right in an XO1 timeline, but before Franklin, but before, that puts in a span of 5 years it being released, and that's a real odd ship. Although they have seen Vulcan tech. I mean, again, discussion at the end. We'll get there.
In the spaceflight chronology, Rick also states that navigation was provided by a celestial warp reader, and that the ship had a null gravity gymnasium, 5 dining rooms, 3 theaters, 3 nightclubs, as well as a forward and rear observatory. Now, I really like the idea of a larger starliner used for taking trips with many passengers, especially using the older ring technology tech. That's why I really enjoy the older source material, like the spaceflight chronology, for example. If you can find one, I highly suggest picking one up. It is a fun read, and that was kind of the canon before there was canon for people like me, the older folks. So I really like the spaceflight chronology.
And, fully licensed, done by Rick, who certainly understood the Trek at the time, who worked on multiple Treks, so, but
after the fact, yeah.
Yeah, but obviously if you look at a lot of those designs in there, they're really we'll just throw some stuff together. So I want to go back and discuss some things we brought up in this episode, and I've also got one miniatures just for useful showing things. So the sizing, we have 2 very conflicting, one being teeny, one being massive. Now, Doug said one of those, but obviously we have a 3D model, the licensed Eaglemoss model, which shows a certain scale, and as you pointed out earlier, the window scale is something we use to determine. And that model was also used in Ships of the Line, which I believe is where you got some of the other information.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a little write-up in the Ships of the Line calendar that had this featured, and also the maps had some information as well, just on its first voyages and stuff. But yeah, the smaller size seems to be more accurate, as if it's based on Matt Jeffries' original design of 250 feet for this height. And if you look at the picture that's in the Ships of the Line calendar, it's very detailed, and you can see by the size that it's not big. Whereas if we switch to the picture that's in the spaceflight chronology, there's a totally redesigned front section, and you can imagine that being scaled up. So I don't have a problem with that. The larger spaceflight chronology one, like I said, it's cool to use different kinds of tech, especially on civilian vessels like passenger liners, for different purposes. So,
Yeah, for me, I mean, if you look at where we got, obviously now we can look at the entire Trek canon as we see it, and we know it's definitely canon because the Kelvin reference, which obviously shows it in between like Franklin and other ships. So this would be a obvious Warp 2 design because as a test, not necessarily as a test ship, but a first probe ship, as we stated at the start, because Vulcans have come to Earth. We already had Warp 1, did it a certain way, great. Now we've got Vulcan influence. Hey, they go faster, further, better. Let's mimic. Doug obviously loves that, and this is a very natural piece. Obviously, we know that modern tech, contemporary tech, they also believe a ring to generate FTL is a possibility. But then we know that when we get to the warp, I believe it was 3 barrier, and then 3-5 barrier with the warp alpha, beta, and delta, and gamma and such, those are very much budgetary reasons wise. The Cochrane-style warp vehicle just refitted and made into those later vessels. Then we get the Franklin first Warp 4 ship, test ship, and then we get the Enterprise Warp 5. So I guess you could call it, for me, it wouldn't make sense as a passenger liner, given that we don't ever use this tech at any other point ever. But as Warp 2, as a test ship, fits in reasonably well, if not elegantly.
well, this one was designed to be a space probe, so something that could hit some farther reaches without, doing a lot quicker, and a small crew, just for getting readings and taking planetary surveys and stuff like that. And that makes sense. Plus, I picture this being in development separately than the experimental warp delta and stuff like that, or the warp ship, because that's more Starfleet, that's more military-esque. This could probably be just one of the civilian contractors that took the Vulcan tech and go, okay, we're for NASA, let's say, or for the United Earth Space Probe Agency, as it says here. We're going to use this tech to try to make a small probe ship, and it was successful to a point, but they never really developed the tech far beyond that because of the upgrades that were made to the Cochrane style engines. So it kind of makes sense that this was just a different company or a different purpose. So,
and it also could be cheaper. I mean, if you think about, obviously Starfleet could put the entire resources of the Earth into these, pushing the warp engine, very small, I mean, much smaller than this, much faster. Okay, so this is inferior technology. But, yeah, like you said, civilians, we saw older freighters using older technology, still very similar, but also different in their own respects. So if this was, if it became a cruise liner, yeah, it's a civilian liner. They say, right, well, we're the SpaceX. We know this sort of works. So we'll try and, if Vulcans can do it, we can do it. Okay, we can't do it they said Warp 3.2. So what if this is, 5 or 6 years behind Starfleet? They're already at Warp 5. That's okay. I mean, why would they be given access to the Warp 5 engine? I mean, I'm sure even in orbit, civilian ships weren't allowed to necessarily go next to the Warp 5 space dock. Like we always see the shows, the context is Starfleet is the military sort of arm. We don't see the civilian. There's probably Starfleet airspace, especially in those more contemporary times. So yeah, it's still a bit of a weird ship to be, the second iteration, the larger version, to be a carrier for people. But I could kind of see civilians saying, let's go for this.
I think they both work together, to be honest. You can still have this be the USS Enterprise, one of the first probes.
Yeah.
But still have a larger class called the Declaration class, which is more like a luxury cruise liner, like the Queen Mary 2, cruising the oceans, taking passengers back and forth.
Yeah.
Slower trip, but I mean, it's like taking the Mountain Rocky Express train. You're going for a shorter or a longer trip, but it's more views along the way. Something that rich passengers would want to maybe exploit. I'm sure it's a little bit slower trip than some of the other warp ships that they have, but again, it's civilian. It's meant to be just that.
Obviously, we said 6 months to Alpha Centauri at the lower warp speed, but 3.2 of the cruise liner version is obviously a lot quicker journey, because you wouldn't want to spend 6 months on a cruise liner. That is a bit, that goes beyond half your year going to a place. It goes beyond a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't then have an Enterprise. I don't know if Starfleet would allow a civilian Enterprise at that point.
Well, I don't think one of the Declaration class would have been named Enterprise. That's where you can retcon that little bit out, but still have this smaller probe ship and then the larger Declaration class still working together. Just not 957 of them. Damn.
I mean, it would work fine if they were teeny. And
Well, to be fair, it said 957 commissioned. It didn't really say how many were built.
3.
I had to say that.
It's like the Babylon 5 Babylon project. They all died except except the 5th one. But no, it's a weird one. It's totally canon, but no information is canon. You know what I mean? It's an amazing ship, but so much is licensed. Ships Online is licensed. It's approved. It's allowed to be out there.
The only thing that's canon is its appearance in the motion picture and on the conference wall, and that's just a picture of the ship. So everything, every fact is contextual and just speculative. So,
and like I said with Rick Sternbach's, that was obviously before the Enterprise X1 part of the timeline came in, before we knew where Nemesis was going. All those things, the universe evolved. But as a designer, it's real simple, real easy. You can definitely see it being a 60s Jeffries design. Obviously, this is, I believe, Mark Rademacher's enhanced model for Eagle Moss, which you can also collect. It's one of their XL models. It's simple, but it's sort of the definitive version of this miniature.
But yeah, I guess that's it for this episode. If you have any more information on the Ring ship or want to share your thoughts or comments, as you guys always tend to do, by all means do that in the comment section down below. Don't forget to check out our social media. Always great conversations over there as well on our Facebook page, and we got Discord and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. And click like, subscribe, do all that normal stuff you do. Hit the notification icon if you haven't already to get notified of future uploads by us. And other than that, you can help us out in different ways.
Lots of different ways, actually. We have a lot now. The Patreon, which is a monthly donation scheme, that's like the backbone of what we do. We produce content like this. We do live streams each week dealing with current issues or breaking news, which we love to do. And you can also support those directly, just joining us and being part of the conversation, but also super chatting, which gets money directly to us. If you enjoy what we do, then like I say, be a Patreon supporter monthly. Even $1 does make a difference. Or donate a one-time thank you. You love this episode. You want to say, good job, guys. Give us $5 at Trekyards.com. Donate button goes on top of PayPal. Easy peasy, and it all makes a big difference. Or just share, like, subscribe, as you said. All these things help the analytics and help this channel grow, because we're doing really cool episodes like this that, better than we've ever done, sleeker than we've ever done, and we want you all to watch and enjoy and support us to do more, because there is a lot of ships out there, and we know we can do them all justice. So help us do that.
That's right. And if you like this episode, put a ring on it. Oh, like this. This actually makes kind of like a cool little handheld weapon.
Yeah, I did think that too.
Anyway, so until next time, guys, I'm Captain Foley.
I am Commander Coggins.
See you soon.